Yes. Hi, and welcome to The Kitchen. On this episode for Country Thunder, the podcast, we're talking to Cookie, part of the four-man team of the Rusty Pickups. How are you today, Cookie?
Good, mate. How you going?
Good, mate. Good.
Pleasure to be in the kitchen.
Pleasure to have you in the kitchen. So, first of all, I want to unpack a few things. We don't know much about you. You've just come onto the scene. You've got an EP coming out, but I want to talk about this. On your website, the start of your website says that Rusty Pickups are the four guys, the four remaining members of a poorly thought out 10-piece honky tonk band in Toowoomba.
Yes, that's possibly something we should consider changing, that little bio, perhaps. No, many years ago, I had one of my patented terrible ideas, generally speaking. The whole plan was just to get together. There was a heap of musicians. Mostly we were in sort of indie rock bands and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I had this unbelievably ambitious yet equally not so clever idea to put together like a one-off traveling Wilburys super group type thing. Mm-hmm. The idea we were just going to do one show. I think someone had just given me the Concert for George DVD, perhaps. Like, you know, I was feeling very motivated by seeing all those guys getting together. I was like, that'd be just fun. But I wanted to put a full-blown country show together, but not tell anyone it was going to be country, and make everyone wear metal shirts. I wanted to offend as many people as possible with my musical choices and directions.
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, it seemed like just an absolutely brilliant idea, and that's about as far as it got. I think we had 20 members at one point, but none of us actually did anything about it. And so it never went anywhere.
The problem we have with such a super group like that is, how does any venue pay for it?
Exactly right. And I mean, you know, it's also the organisational thing. I struggle to get organised to play a solo show, so undertaking something like that could probably be a little bit too much to ask at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was just a by-the-by idea that we had. And the idea was that anyone who was a pianist had to play drums. And if you're a drummer, you had to play bass. No one was supposed to play the instruments they were supposed to do. It was a stupid idea.
No, sounds like a whole heap of fun.
It would have been a lot of fun. But Waylon, our keyboardist, he actually followed through and turned up one day at home, and we were just having a bit of a jam. He brought his keyboard over and started playing, and I was sort of kind of got shocked into a bit of reality there, because he's a damn good player. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't the right way to go. Maybe I should just let this man do what he does and let him do it well. And then Lee joined the band on the banjo with his clawhammer stylings, and at that point, it sort of became pretty clear that I had to drop the pretense of this being a joke operation and start actually taking it a bit seriously. So
true.
Yeah.
Now there still is another joke that I want to talk about on your Facebook page. It says you're not big in Japan. Why is that?
Oh, so that's one of my favorite. There's a great. I grew up on sort of Australian indie rock. And there's a great Dave McCormack from Custard, who used to play in a country band called Cow up in Brisbane, which not too many people would have heard of. But they put out an album with some friends of his under the guise of the Millionaires, and did a wonderful sort of, it was him, and I can't remember the second chap's name. It's brilliant. And they said, oh, you know, it was a bit like the Travelling Wilburys project. They were going to share, you know, I'll do a song, you do a song, I'll do a song, you do a song. And the other chap that was involved was doing these, you know, brilliant country standards from way back and putting a modern twist on it. And then the next track would be Dave, and he'd be doing George Michael's Faith. And there was just no consistency to it all. I absolutely loved it. And the last track on that is an absolutely brilliant version of Big in Japan. And that was sort of a joke that stuck with us from the start. It's about the fact that, you know, one day we won't be big in Japan. Apparently, we're living up to that expectation of not being big in Japan or really anywhere. So we're on track.
Well, you're getting some attention on Country Thunder Australia, of course. You got to number 3 in the charts. Hello.
In some wonderful company too, might I add.
Yeah.
I saw going back some months, Bud Rakesky's new single came out, and I saw it jumped straight onto the charts.
Baby
And
and
then,
I, yeah. Mm.
oh, he's a phenomenal chap. We saw him when we were down at Tamworth, and I've been following his career with great interest because I think he's fantastic. But he sort of appeared on the chart, and then sort of the new music rolled in. So we sort of popped in there, I think at 26 or somewhere, a couple of weeks back, and I went, well, that's awesome. And I was honestly expecting us to be gone the following week. So to end up at number 3 was a big surprise and very exciting. So to anyone who is listening, thank you for casting a vote there.
So how we work the chart is simply listener requests. So it's all based on who's actually pressing those buttons on our website to request the songs, and
it's a brilliant system.
Canary, got right up there. I saw you posted the other week. I saw you, let's give it one more shot. Let's see if we can't get there.
Yeah,
and
it worked.
And you got to number 3. I was like, yes, go on.
Yeah. No, that was a really wonderful surprise. That and yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a real honor to be on any chart. But obviously we see a whole host of great music popping up on that chart, and more than that, following on the social media stuff as you do, every time that the charts come out, there's engagement there with all the musicians. So it's a wonderful networking experience for musicians as well, because just in that comment alone, you'll see that everyone's there and everyone's keeping an eye on it to see what's floating around. So it's
and lately I've really enjoyed watching that, because it's like there's artists congratulating other artists in the comments of those, and it just blows me away that the whole community is coming together. And if you actually look at some of the other charts around, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but they have less reaction than I do.
Yeah, no, it's been really interesting, and a great way to discover a lot of new music, especially Australian new music that's out there. And you sort of get a bit of a sense too of sort of, like I said, this is a fairly new experience for us. This is our first proper EP that we've put out, and it's been really well received. We've been really happy. But it's certainly a learning curve. The just for the business side of things, of what you need to make yourself available to do, and what you need to be investing to essentially go, not far, but to go further than we've ever gone, and to appear in a wonderful chart. And we've actually got our film clip for Canaries on CMT on Sunday, which we're really excited about. And
excellent.
And there's some great stuff out there. And when you see a chart like that with interactions from artists, you can really sort of have a look, even if it's not particularly your cup of tea, as I'm sure our song isn't to some people who prefer sort of the more traditional country style. You can look and see what artists are doing, and it becomes sort of almost a business resource in a sense to see, okay, well, they're talking to these people and they're doing this work, and what opportunities are out there. Because ultimately, the music business is a tricky one, and
it's all networking. It's all networking. That's right.
Exactly, networking and finding those opportunities to be able to present something that you have invested your time and energy into, and putting it in front of people who like music. It's I mean, we'd all love to just be at Tamworth 365 days of the year, where everyone's just desperate to hear everything that's out there, but the world's not like that. So it's great to have those opportunities to network with people and see what they're doing, to give yourself an opportunity to find new people who might want to hear your music.
So you're up on the hill in Toowoomba.
Yes.
Love that place. I lived there. I actually lived there for a very brief time. I got out really quick because there was bad memories, because I lived up there in the time of September 11.
Okay.
That's where I was when September 11 happened. I was living in a house off just, how the main street, there's another street that runs off it that's parallel. I was living off that parallel street, and there was the main street of town right there. So
right in the guts of it all.
Yeah, right in the guts of it all. And I can't remember half the stuff. That was what, 2001? I think, yeah. So yeah, I got out of there pretty quickly, but I absolutely loved living up there. It was brilliant. And but what I want to know is, living in Toowoomba, what's it like for you in the music scene, Queensland, Southeast Queensland, and moving forward, touring into the other parts of Australia?
Look, Toowoomba at the moment is not without its challenges, but it is. Look, I mean, we're all older. the four of us are, I mean, I just turned 40 the other day, so it's
you're a young chicken, mate.
just to share, yeah, look, we recently had a couple of our music venues have sort of closed down in town. COVID obviously impacted everyone greatly, but it's sort of, I used to own a music venue in Toowoomba, which is a wonderful time as far as getting to see a lot of music and everything. But there's not a lot of money to be made in a small venue. It's hard work, and if you're not doing it because you love it, it's not going to land. We're working on putting together a bit of a co-op at the moment, reaching out to a few places in town that might not necessarily be renowned as a music venue, but who are also interested in getting behind the work and original musicians, essentially. So musicians that want to play their own music. And I guess that's probably some of the best things that can come about when it comes to music, is when things seem like they might be a bit too hard, that's when you get those networking opportunities really happening on a grassroots level. And you see people, I mean, our film clip that I was saying before, that's going up on CMC, that was a chap, Phil Jones, who plays in a different band in town. And we sort of put the film clip together. We weren't quite happy with how it looked, and he sort of reached out and said, look, I've just picked up some new gear. Do you want me to come and help you give a bit of a shoot? And we said, yeah, that'd be great. And he turned up with lights and a bloody smoke machine and everything. And so we got to do what we thought was going to be a very modest sort of shot to fill out some gaps. Ended up being a really great shoot. And I guess we're working on trying to expand on that in town to get to some people that, you run the risk of musicians ending up with chips on their shoulders because they don't feel like they're getting the work locally that they deserve. But the best way to rectify that is to create the work for yourself. And I guess that's kind of what we've been doing in town. We put our EP launch on just a couple of weeks ago in town, which went really well. We did it at the Muller Brothers in town, which is a Brazilian barbecue joint that just happens to have an amazing rooftop bar. So so we bought in our own stage and our own PA, and we did our own tickets and put the merch, and we sold 100 tickets on it, and it was a brilliant day. And now they're excited about, well, maybe that's something we could do a little more frequently. So
there you go.
When people start working from the ground up, you end up with a better foundation for evolution in the future when it comes to things that we're going to see. And Toowoomba's famous for the music that it creates. It always has been. It always has been a real hive of the arts. The university is obviously a big part of that. So yeah, I think it's probably good that we're coming out of COVID now and back into the real world, that maybe there's more artistic people realizing that being isolated is a terrible thing. And that what we need to do is start calling on people who have skills that we don't have and who have opportunities that we might not have necessarily ourselves, and go, right, well, let's work together. Because I mean, there's no harm in helping someone else get something done if you can help them go that way. So yeah, I hope that in 12 months time we're going to see, I guess, a bit more of a rebirth when it comes to the amount of live music in town, and hopefully to be a part of that would be wonderful.
On a broader range, what do you see coming up for, like, touring other parts of Australia and moving on past Toowoomba to the bigger scheme of things? Yeah,
well, we've sort of it was actually great. I mentioned we got to go to Tamworth at the start of the year this year, which was really, really fantastic and bloody hot. And it ended up being the best thing. It wasn't even a hot year, apparently, but it was still warm enough for me.
It wasn't the hottest year, no.
No, it certainly wasn't. But it was hot enough that we did 7 shows in 6 days. And every day we were playing quite early and then quite late when we played. So we had that middle of the day when we were just sort of sitting around in the shade, having a bit of a spell. And all we did was kind of talk about what we wanted to achieve and what we could achieve as for people who have families and jobs. And Aidan plays music professionally, so his income is based around being a music teacher and a musician, so he needs to work more. Waylon is just finished his master's, so he's at the start of a career. So we needed to sort of have a pretty frank discussion about what the restrictions were on what we could do. And weirdly enough, it's once we sort of had that time to really sit down and work it out, we went, righto, well, let's put the last weekend of the month, that's our gigging time. I'll go to work, I'll book what I can for that time. And that way we've got plenty of notice. We know what's happening. We know when you might need to knock off at lunch on a Friday, and you can organise yourself accordingly. And the end result was that we sort of, what we thought were going to be our restrictions kind of ended up being advantages in a way, because within a couple of weeks of just getting stuck in, I'd booked our February shows and the March shows for the EP launch, and then we've got a couple of shows in April and May. We're hosting a show down here. Well, I fell down the range. I meant before. I'm down in Murphy's Creek at the bottom of the hill now, so very close to the hill, but just at the foot of it. And we've got a lovely little pub up the road from our little farm where we're having an old time jam and a show there for May, and then June we're doing a run through Ipswich and Brisbane, and then July down to northern New South Wales. So it ended up being that at this point we're looking at probably doing around 30 shows for the year, which, looking around comparatively for any band I've ever been in, is fairly prolific as far as getting out and playing is concerned. And we're, of all those 30 shows, that's only 2 in town in Toowoomba. The rest of them are out and about. So in a way, that this restrictions that we had to discuss on what we could and couldn't do sort of motivated us to really utilize what time we had and go, right, well, where do we think we can take this show and make it count? So so it's been, the opportunities have really sort of come from there. Poor old Waylon on his keys kept on getting the hump, because obviously I was playing acoustic guitar and Lee was on the banjo and Aidan was on the double bass, but he had to plug in still. So he went and bought himself a piano accordion the other day, which is slowly creeping more and more into the set as he as he gets the hang of that. Again, I may have mentioned that he's a talented, bit of a talented human being. But so our shows in July, we're actually looking at only taking it and a couple of condenser microphones, and we're sort of building a show around it where we can plonk a microphone down on the ground, stand the 4 of us around it, and play wherever we are.
Wow.
Through one speaker if needs be. So that again opens up the opportunity for, all right, well, what can we do with that? Where can we go? We can all fit in the car. We had to build a little machine so we could fit the double bass through the back of the ute and into the back seat, but we found a way we can all fit in the car and hit the road, and that means you can pick up a lunchtime show, just set up on the street somewhere, play some music, advertise the show you're doing, and then head down the road to wherever's next. And it's
I remember back in, oh God, it's so long now, 1997, 98. I used to do a run because I was living in Logan. And actually I was living in Logan Village of all places. And we used to do a run most weekends. And one of those runs was Toowoomba, Dalby, Chinchilla, Roma, like that run. And I remember going out and doing a Saturday night show, a Friday night show, a Saturday night show, and a Sunday session on the way back. And that was
absolutely.
And that was our weekly income, and we were just a duo. We didn't have to work then, but now.
Well, there was back in the 90s, you could make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, but now it's so hard to actually make that type of money that you're making back then. I mean, why did the industry change so much, do you think?
Look, I think it's hard to say. I guess I've been involved in the industry, but probably not. I've played in bands, and I started organising a festival when I was being involved in the organisation of a little festival when I was 13. It was back in about that time in the mid 90s. And I think it's a weird sort of combination now of everything being easier. And as a result, which is on one hand is probably brilliant, because it means that people that have never thought to sit down and record a song and put a song out to the world have been afforded that opportunity now. I mean, I've recorded demos on GarageBand just to send to the rest of the boys, and they sound fantastic. And you think, well, that's a wonderful thing. On the flip side, perhaps it has, with the internet and everything, it's opened up this incredible amount of content that's out there where you really don't have time to listen to the radio anymore, because there's charts, there's like, unless you know exactly what you want to listen to, case in point, you get to listen to a show like yours on Country Thunder, and you know what's going to be coming, and it's fantastic. But if you're looking for new music, there's too much. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost overwhelming just looking at what's out there, and the pressure of missing out on something is crippling.
And it's so hard to pick the right date to release something, because like there's 20, I think there was 1 week there was 26 new releases in the week, and
I saw that.
Even it blew my mind. I'm sitting there going,
what are you doing? Yeah, you're on a radio show. So, I mean, I guess that's wonderful. It's great to see that people are creating creating art, because creating art's all that, I mean, we saw that in COVID. Nobody used their time in lockdown to go, great, let's learn how to be better at physics. People learn to play an instrument, they learn to bake bread, they made art. It's the most important thing that we do, but it's hard to know whether or not the access that we all have to it is probably has changed things to the point where people aren't going, well, it's Friday night, the only thing to do is
go to the pub.
down to the pub and we'll watch a band. Yep. We don't even know who it is. It's just going to be on. Whereas now they can be interacting with musicians in different countries who are doing live performances. They can be watching, a live music show that could be one of the greatest things they've ever seen on their big screen TV at home at 7 o'clock on a Thursday morning.
Yep, that's right.
And if that's what they're interested in, then their needs are met. So I guess the challenge of that is to find where you sit as far as what your needs are and what your expectations are, and finding a way, I guess, to look at it as far as not, oh, this is what we have to do, but rather look at it as man, we get to do this, and if you can find a way that you're not relying on it for your bread and butter, perhaps, then like we all have jobs and we do our things, and we get to do something that we're really excited by and that we're really proud of. That doesn't really make the answer easy for anyone who is relying on music for their bread and butter. I don't know what the answer is for those guys. I guess I'll just keep buying tickets and doing my bit. But yeah, I guess in our situation, at the moment we're having a lot of fun getting to do what we're doing.
But that makes it hard for you to travel across to the other side of Australia, because you do have other jobs and you do have, so it restricts how far you can travel, because I guess for the ones that are relying on full-time music and that's their income, they've got more opportunity to get around to the rest of Australia.
100%. Yeah, definitely. We've talked about our plans. Like, we were just all having a chat before, sort of working out. We were thinking we might, book somewhere away from home so we can concentrate and start putting together an album that we want to record. And when it comes time to moving that, like we've put in our applications for the second half of the year to different sort of festivals. Which that second half of the year there's so many of them, and they're a wonderful. They're sort of like the anti-problem what we were talking about before, because it is, again, this huge evolution of so much music and arts all together in one spot. But that just means that no matter where you look, there's something great going on.
But there's people going to those festivals that have never heard you before, and then suddenly you've got another 1,000 fans from that festival, or you've got another So
everyone that's there is there because they like something similar to what you do. So if you can do what you do and do it well, then that's great. You're in the right place. So
that's fantastic.
That'll be an exciting part of the year. But when it comes to putting out an album, we've had our chats about what the plan is. If this has been a really exciting time for us, where we're sort of, and I guess you do see that within the industry, people take you seriously if you take yourself seriously. So we're not treating this group like the failed honky tonk 10-piece band. We're treating ourselves like good four musicians who want to write some good music and want to put great stuff together. So if the time comes, we'll plan ahead and we'll organise our time. And we're definitely planning on spending more time heading south next year to get down to Sydney and get down to Melbourne and sort of see what's floating around.
I'm in Western Australia, buddy. Just remember that.
Yeah, exactly right. I still keep waiting for them to put the border up and just start falling in a new country. So,
well, hey, it almost happened, didn't
it? So yeah, but as far as getting over there is concerned, it's again, I think we're probably in a fairly privileged position in that we organise our own shows and we organise our own merch. We're lucky that we've got members within the band who have skills, like as far as I've done a lot of booking bands and managing bands, so I can organise shows we've got guys that do web design, and we've got guys that know about sound production, and we can work within our skills that we've got and go, right, well, let's make sure that we can put these shows on and put a bit of money away, and then we can top up the coffers if needs be. If an opportunity came to go to Perth, we could look at it and go, all right, well, maybe it's a great opportunity. Let's have a look at it. Let's see what we can do. I mean, I'd certainly never say no to an opportunity. If you're offering a cuppa in a real kitchen, you might see us. Yeah.
Anytime. So anyway, we've talked a lot about the business side of things. Let's actually talk about the new song Canary. Tell us the story behind that. Where did it come from? How did it happen?
That was my son having an opinion about the song in the background there. It's funny though, Canary. I've talked to a few people about the song itself. I guess it's the rest of the songs that are more. I'm more of a storyteller when it comes to my writing. They're fairly linear in the songs that we write. I am very lucky to have those other three boys who are just such exceptional musicians that I was actually just rolling through my phone before through audio recordings. I think there was, audio recording number 38. And I was sort of listening and deleting which ones weren't anything. And that's largely where my musical sort of inspiration comes from. And then I get to sort of take that, find my melody, and then tell a story. Canary itself is sort of more, I don't know, lyrically I was having, just the normal troubles that anyone has with good days and bad days. And it's more, I guess, looking at it as an opportunity to see that, maybe you're not operating as the best version of yourself, and that's all anyone's goals can really be, is looking at maybe why you're not operating at 100%, and more than that, seeing what impact that has on everything around you. And when the birds aren't singing, it's not normally for no reason at all. It's probably because you've just done your nut, or you've thrown something in the shed, or you fired your shotgun in the air. That's when things go quiet, and that's when there is no song, is when you've had an impact on the world around you. So for me, it was that song lyrically was just sort of taking a beautiful melody that that Lee and Bernard had sort of Lee and Waylon, had put together. And then it was one of those ones that sort of it rolled out in 10 minutes and it was ready to sort of be written down and talked about. So it's nice to have a song about taking ownership for the impact you have on the world around you, actually seemingly having an impact on the people around us. Because
it is absolutely. So I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It's been great to talk to you, and I'm sure we will talk again and again and again through the years. Could you please introduce for our listeners of Country Thunder, the podcast, your latest single?
No, thanks so much, guys, and thank you for anyone who's cast a vote. Thanks, Dax, for having us. I'm Cookie from Rusty Pickups, and I hope you enjoy our latest single. This is Canary.